Attention all patriots, it's time for the Signal 50 podcast, where we talk about the hard truth about today's current events.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is Wednesday, February 10th, 2021. It's cold, snowing, miserable, and Joe Biden, unfortunately, is still the president. I know. Well, it won't give us any lack of things to talk about.
That is true, although when you talk about it, it still gets depressing. But we are not trying to be depressing. We're going to be ever hopeful and optimistic. Welcome to the show, everyone. How's it going?
And thanks for joining us, everybody out there in podcast land. It's very interesting. We sit there, we look at the stats from time to time, and we can tell who's listening and who's not. And you know, our listenership is growing. I really wish we could get Parler back so people could get the word. We can get the word out a little bit better on that. But you know what? Hey, that's great. Everything is fine. Everything is gravy. One person that we get to talk to every time we do this is just fine with me. Anyhow, welcome back to the Signal 50 podcast. We're going to bring you a few current event stories tonight. It's a Wednesday night. It's hump day. Everybody's really tired, and tomorrow's Friday Eve. So let's just see how it goes.
But before we go any further, remember, we last time we did a recording. I was curious, if anyone missed us, if we, want to give us some feedback on whether or not you want us live or you want us via Memorex. You know what that means? The old people know what I'm saying.
You're dating yourself.
I just dated myself again.
Totally.
But remember, you can chat with us via Telegram. That's where we're at. Just look up Signal 50 Podcast. You'll bring it right to our channel. We have a chat channel. That's the way Telegram works until Parler comes back. Also, you can chat here if it's convenient. Just remember the overlords are watching, and we don't want anyone getting stomped on from the overlords. So there you have it.
And I am still banned from Twitter.
Are you missing it?
Not even a little bit.
That's good.
To be honest with you, not even a little bit. I got to be honest with you. This Telegram thing is, I think it's what Twitter kind of wanted to be. I think that what they did was they looked at Twitter and they figured out what Twitter was, and they decided what they weren't.
Mm-hmm.
So, that was a good thing for them to do. All right, so on to the show. Enough of that crap. So, and on to the show tonight, and here's a few things that we're not going to talk about.
Right. We strained ourselves.
Yes.
Our brains the last time when we were talking about.
We nearly vagaled out. It was bad.
But, in terms of the heavy duty, we went to the weeds and we went right into it. And we decided tonight, let's take it a little easier and do a little free form. And what are we not trying to talk about tonight, Alpha?
We're not talking about this nonsense of impeachment that's going on. Not talking about it. It's not even. It doesn't even. It's horrible. Whatever. Moving on. Let's see. What else aren't we going to talk about? We're not going to talk about Hunter Biden. Nope.
It's like waiting for the second coming. When is the FBI going to do their job and arrest the SOB? Never, because
no, it's not going to happen.
In the office. That's why.
Exactly.
So it's not what we're talking about. But
nope. And we're not going to talk about John Durham.
Nope, it's another depressing letdown.
Nothing's going to happen. Anyhow.
As much as I enjoy watching QAnon and everyone else, I don't think it's going to happen either.
I don't think so either. So why don't we go ahead without further ado, bring us our first story that we can talk about. Tonight, we really wanted to focus a little bit about the economic impact of this new administration and what they're going to do to us. So let's get right into it. This is the House Democrats are unveiling a $1.9 trillion
with a T.
With a T. Trillion with a T.
Not on that.
No. COVID-19 relief package. Okay. What does it mean?
Well, what are you going to, if you were to take 1.9 trillion and divide it by 330 million, you got a lot left over.
Let me pull out the abacus and do some math here. Hold on one second.
Now you just did it yourself. Usually use calculator.
Hold on. So keep talking while I do math.
All right, so you do the math, but let's answer the question. Well, Alpha brings up the number that we would get if you just divided 330 million for every man, woman, child here, again, of our tax dollars, which we'll talk about in a second, and you were to divide that, we'll find out what that number is. There's a lot more money left over because they're not going to give us what I think it's going to work out to be. Anytime here we can find out what that number would be. I think it goes to other places. It's a feedback loop. It's a negative feedback loop, as we like to say in medicine. And where you take the money, it comes back to you laundered. And I can't help but think about that movie Lethal Weapon 2. Leo gets, and they laundered the money.
They laundered the money. Okay, folks, so I did a little math while we were waiting. I pulled out the abacus and did some heavy duty calculations. That's about $5,500 for every man, woman, and child in this country.
Now, Alpha, you said
that's every man, woman, and child.
Yeah, 5,500.
Yep.
I think I have to check my hearing and go see an audiologist because that's not what we're supposed to be getting. We're supposed to be getting another 2,000 ish.
Yeah, well, there's overhead costs in there, G&A, bribes, foreign influence that they need to buy. They need to grow some bureaucracies. Let's see, they're going to give some more money to the FDA. They're going to create a whole bunch more federal jobs. Yeah.
So, in other words, this spending bill is not really for the American people.
Nope.
It's for the cronies. It's for the cronies.
That's right.
For the Bidens.
And the Clintons.
So, you know what? This is just and do we have $1.9 trillion laying around, Alpha?
Let me check the piggy bank. That's negative. Nope.
Negative, Ghost Rider. The pattern is empty.
Empty. We are almost 30 trillion in the hole at this point. What's 1.9 more? It doesn't matter.
Funding for the CDC, they say. So instead of giving the money to us, they give it to the CDC.
Right.
Energy and Commerce Committee.
They're doing their markups on it for they're responsible for a portion of it.
Proposed funding $7.5 billion for the CDC to prepare, promote, administer, monitor, and track vaccines against COVID-19, which is all a bunch of crap. Oh God.
Yeah, this is all bad.
Department of Health and Human Services to detect, diagnose, and trace COVID-19 infection. By the way, did you check the numbers lately? I know we're not supposed to talk about COVID. That was on the taboo list, but I can't help myself. The numbers have gone down below 2%. And when they switched down the cycles, and I said this way before they, when I caught on to what they were doing, they actually cut down on the cycles. Now the World Health Organization, their infinite wisdom, and their China handlers allowed them to do so, said, oh, why not? We're gonna tone down those cycles, and all of a sudden the numbers are dropping.
How about that? It's like magic.
And here's just a little more statistics for everyone out there. If you were to take a recent randomized test in my area, they did 563 tests of COVID amongst the families in the school district I'm at. They decided that, okay, we're going to randomly select, and they did all the families. Guess how many came up positive from this 563?
None.
2.
2. Oh.
All of a sudden comes up as 2, and they weren't even sick.
Those are false positives then.
Yep. So, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, I propose that this is BS and motion to dismiss.
Hi.
Nothing like being live.
Exactly. Nothing like being live. But anyhow, yeah, I think it's just ridiculous. Yeah. So what does that work out in a percentage? It's like 1/10 of 1%.
1/10
positive.
1. Yeah, that's about right in the old math department.
Didn't even need the abacus for that one. Huh.
That's one point.
Look, this is absurd. I mean, it's just absurd. And now you get the CDC that came out. All right, we're going off on a tangent, but that's not abnormal. Now the CDC's guidance is, well, if you're wearing one mask, why not just wear two? Because that's more effective.
Yeah, that's
yeah.
Fauci
Why not three? Why not five? Why don't we just keep making shit up?
Yep, that's what they're
Let's
doing.
Just keep doing. Yeah, let's just keep doing that. Anybody? Do you know anybody with the flu this year?
I haven't heard.
No one has the flu. No, flu's done. Flu's not even a thing anymore.
Nope.
Moving on.
Anyway, so that was.
So anyhow, back to $1.9 trillion.
Well, yeah, and that's what they're spending it on. That's what got us off on the tangent, everyone.
Oh yeah, they're just growing the government and putting in place. It is incredibly easy to build a bureaucracy. It is incredibly difficult to get rid of it.
Mm-hmm. And once they have power, are they willing to give it back?
No, never. Of course not.
Of course not. So, with that being said, I curious to see what everyone else thinks. I'm sure that there's better use of that money. I'm amazingly, shockingly don't have anything to think about because they just waste it every single time.
Yeah. Anyway. How about that, huh?
So let's talk about something else. Talking about the economy, and we were talking about this the other day. Remember when Biden sat down into the Oval Office and decided to put out the job-killing executive order to stop the XL pipeline? Just stop it. Here we go. We're just going to stop it. Well, attorneys are now getting involved, and they're going to, and attorney generals from the states, I'm sure, that are affected, are writing a little letter to Biden to reverse their decision. And I think that's going to be followed by many, many lawsuits. And I heard that there were companies were looking into getting their own private security to continue the job. Anyway, despite this little executive order.
Good for them.
Yeah, and I hope that happens. I mean, these people need their jobs, and this is a whole economy. And I don't know about you, Alpha. I don't think clean economics is really the way to go. I don't think clean energy is really all that good of an idea to begin with.
It's incredibly inefficient, number one. Number two, it's incredibly expensive.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's listen, cars today are not cars of the 70s or the 60s, right? We don't run leaded fuel anymore. We run a higher grade gasoline that's more highly refined, less impurities, less pollution. The emissions control systems on cars are more highly advanced. You barely get anything other than, what do they call a greenhouse gas? Is CO2. It's carbon dioxide and water is basically what it boils down to. Carbon dioxide is a key component of life on this planet. Without it, plants don't work.
And food doesn't work.
Correct. Yeah, we need food. Food's good.
So, with that being said, there's besides 1,000, and according to the article from the Western Journal, they were talking about the thousands of displaced workers and their families. Surely disagree with the heartless assessment of what the president did, and yada yada blah blah blah. So you get it, everyone gets it. It's just and this just happened to be in Arkansas. It's all up and down the country where this pipeline is being done. And it's
just think of all these people, right? They're working away. They're making great. We've talked about this before, but my heart just absolutely is torn for these people. These guys sat around through the Obama years. These skilled tradesmen, and they basically they just barely made it. They just barely made it. They come into the Trump era. You've got a booming economy. Things are being built. And the infrastructure projects are going and they're funded, and private industry is investing again and pulling all the manufacturing back to the United States. We come with a great way to become more energy independent, to bring cheaper energy to the rest of the world, to us first, and then the rest of the world to lessen our dependence on third world despots that we make fantastically filthy wealthy by buying gasoline and oil from these assholes.
Mhm.
And along comes Joe Biden and his radical left agenda and his little neophytes. And with the stroke of a pen, all these people are streeted. That's insane.
Well,
It's insane.
so what is the driving force in your opinion, in terms of why this is all happening? Is there any thought that you have
Yeah,
that could be driving this in terms of
sure.
what
Sure.
what's on your mind there, Alpha? In terms
I
of
I think that the limousine liberal crowd,
Mhm.
the Al Gores of the world with his private jet,
Mhm.
and who's made billions of dollars off the global warming, falsity that he's been peddling for years.
Mhm.
And all of these people, that's how they make money,
Mhm.
is pimping the fear of global warming
Mhm.
and having a cult of global warmingists.
Mhm.
Climate, first it was global cooling. Do you remember when we were kids? We're all going
Mhm.
to freeze to death.
Yeah, because of the greenhouse effect, and
Yeah, and we're all going to freeze to death because of nuclear winter and blah blah blah
Mhm.
blah. We're going to freeze. Yeah, okay.
Yep.
And then it became global warming, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And we're all going to boil to death, and the Sahara is hot, and all the no shit. The Sahara is hot. It's the fucking Sahara, okay? And then you go ahead, and now it's because things didn't go the way they planned. They're playing
Mhm.
it now. They're playing both sides. Climate change.
Mm. I would actually agree with you with that. I think there's one more part of this, and I think the central bank has a lot to do with this. That small group of people that are controlling everything from from the way the monetary system is up and running. Some of the things I've read have described the central bank is actually this whole way of funding the world, not based on the gold standard, which I think the gold standard was a much better way of doing it, but instead doing it on debt and
Right.
running the financial system based on borrow some more, and then once you borrow, then you're enslaved. And slave is used loosely. I apologize, but use that to.
You're canceled.
Yeah, I know. Well, there you go. But if you think about what you're doing, you're actually paying back this enormous debt, and we just keep making money like it's going out of style. And I'm not sure that this is quite the way to go. And why aren't we basing our money on something that makes a little bit more sense?
Brings us to another topic, but the thing about it is we're a debt driven society. You see people. I always say this, and today in today's climate, I think this is very appropriate. Call me crazy, but you see people with the big house, the brand new car,
Mhm.
the fancy trips every year, the this is, the that's is, and they've got all of the shiny things, right?
Mhm.
And everything is perfect. What happens when they miss a paycheck?
Uh,
It's all based on debt.
yeah. Although right now they're talking about not foreclosing on anyone and not throwing people out of their rentals if they can't pay, or they
That
are
can't go on. That can't go on forever.
that's true. And if when we were younger, again, we're going to date ourselves. It was right in the middle. I remember it barely because I was that young. The gas lines, gas
Oh
shortages.
yeah, I remember.
I do remember my dad talking about something about high interest rates for the house. Now, he never really talked about how interest rates work and things like that. But if I remember from my research, it was 18% for a mortgage.
Oh, it was very high.
And you had to, it was very difficult to get secure loans.
Yep.
And then it wasn't until President Reagan came into office that the mortgage rate started, or the interest rates started coming down.
Mm-hmm.
And you never wanted to carry a balance on your credit card. because the interest rates are ridiculous. I think we're heading that direction again. There's no other way to, and someone's going to make money off it. It's not us, right? I mean, your savings account is worthless. I mean, you might as well take the money and stick it in your sock drawer.
Everybody needs to think about one thing. If you have money in a savings account, how much interest is the bank giving you? 1%, 0.5%.
Even. It's like point nothing.
Nothing. Right. In just a passbook savings account. I remember back in the day when you could make a couple of dollars interest on a passbook savings account.
Mm.
Go borrow some money and watch what happens. Who's making money?
Not me.
Not me.
Well, it's actually the money that's being made right now is actually on the stock market. That's where everyone's going. We're primed for a crash. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's just get ready. It's going to fall down. I mean, it can't sustain this rate.
I have my broker on speed dial, and he already has a warning order that if I shoot him an email, he's to execute a trade immediately and get everything out of the market.
Mm-hmm. And then you put it into a money market.
Money market. Just dump it in a money market and let it sit there in relative peace and quiet for a little while until things calm down.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane. Things are everybody's been flying high. I think I agree with you, Bravo. I think everything is going to come to a screeching halt here very, very quickly.
And I think the best. It's interesting. You and I think alike. I was talking to my financial planner. I was wondering about the gold and about silver and all that other kind of stuff. And he was actually getting out of the gold. He thinks the gold's going to crash too.
I think so too. I think people aren't really going long on gold. I think silver is where a lot of action's happening right now, and silver is very, very high. Silver was 26 at the close. The spot price of silver was, I think, 26.35 at the close yesterday, a troy ounce. I keep an eye on these things. Something else I was keeping an eye on is this Bitcoin business.
Yeah, I was asking my financial planner about Bitcoin, and he didn't really know much about it. And
yeah,
I don't know enough about it to even comment on it. I'm curious if anyone is listening right now, or you want to drop us an email and tell us about it. It's something about blockchain, and it is based on value. You were telling me before the show that if you would have bought $200 worth of Bitcoin, what was it, 10 years ago?
In 2002, had you bought $100 worth of Bitcoin, it would have been worth $464,000 yesterday. Just imagine if he had $1,000 to throw in that direction in 2002.
Wow, that's a lot.
Holy crap! That's a lot of zeros, brother.
Wow, so there is something to it. Whether or not
it's an alternate economy kind of thing, which could be very interesting to think about in the future, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what it's based. I don't know what the value is based on. I know Elon Musk is kind of a.
He just bought billions of it or something.
Yeah, he did. He did $1.something billion worth of Bitcoin.
Wow.
They bought very high though, so I don't know. I hope they work. I hope that works out for them. But one Bitcoin share or whatever it's called is $46,000 US.
What? One Bitcoin?
Yeah, one Bitcoin. One whatever the share is. It's whatever that's called. It's $46,000. It's just
was
ridiculous.
It based on? Do you know what the?
I don't know what the value is based on. I have no idea. It's just really strange.
All right. And they're not really talking about it much. I mean, I was trying to find some stuff about it just to talk about it tonight. It's very hard to find information on it. No one wants to talk about it. And I think that circles back to the central bank. Central bank doesn't want anything to do with Bitcoin. They want everyone to be enslaved to their debt. And that's how it's going to continue. So I don't know.
I agree.
Hey, what are you going to do? Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what you're going to do. Well, all I have to say is the financial markets, unless you're a very skilled investor and you watched, this whole Robinhood and GameStop thing unfold over the last couple of weeks, and it's a lot of drama there. You need to be extremely extremely savvy and really, really careful to play that day trading game with big money. I mean, it's okay to throw around a couple of extra dollars if you have it just to play and have fun. But when you're swinging around a couple of thousand or a few $1,000s in trading, and you're not skilled and you don't know what you're doing, and you jump onto something because everyone else is doing it, like bandwagon style, you better be careful. You're gonna get hurt.
I would also preface this all by saying we are not financial advisors.
No.
We're average Americans who love this country and love our ability to have free speech and to talk about the things that are going on in the world. But when it comes to financial stuff, I have a financial planner and I pretty much do what they say.
Pretty much.
So that's
my financial planner has been dead on the money. Listen, if I had a crystal ball about finances in 2002, I would have taken $1,000 and I would have bought Bitcoin, and you and I aren't having this conversation today.
Right. We would have our accounts off, actually.
We'd be gone. Yeah. Cayman Islands. Anyhow. So, everybody out there, I just think that I think Bravo, I'm not speaking for Bravo, but I think that we're in for some very interesting financial times. And the government spending money the way that they're spending at 1.9 trillion, just keep stacking up debt and debt and debt and debt and debt. And what they're doing is, I think that they're just paying back everybody that Trump, drained money from their bank accounts over the past 4 years. And I think he did a lot of damage to people that, normally speaking, had their hands out and got their pockets pretty full by our government, by your tax dollars. So I think this is just payback, personally.
Yep.
And on that note, next topic.
So that is an interesting discussion about I was kind of thumbing through the Epic Times here, and one of the taboos was COVID-19. No, we're not talking about that. We already did. We're tired of it. Let's see. I'd love to know who handles the finances for our lawmakers if they know that they keep having this, this bottomless pit of money, and just say, oh, I don't know, you could just spend money and spend someone else's money. I think Dan Bongino talks a lot about Milton Friedman, the economist, and how if you're spending your own money, you want the best value, you're going to take the best care of it. And he goes through 3 different stages, and you go to the second stage. Well, you're going to spend your money on someone else, but you kind of care about them, and you're going to buy them a gift. So you look into what that's going to be. But if you're spending someone else's money on someone else, you don't give 2 rats tuchuses about it, and you just keep spending money like it's going out of style, and that's where the government is. So that was something I kind of picked up on.
Yep. Milton Friedman's one of the great thinkers of our time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing I think we should bring up and talk about is cancel culture.
Yeah.
Well, why on this? You can't go against. Used to be, what was it? Conventional thinking? Is that or is cancel culture? Give us a shout out on the Telegram, or if you want to email us, what your thoughts are on cancel culture and why it's so bad for us. But it also kind of falls into this totalitarianism and communism or Marxist way of thinking that if you don't think like us, you shouldn't think at all. Keep your mouth shut and do what we tell you because we know best. I think that's what cancel culture really is. I think it's a form of Marxism that really stifles the ability to speak and think and come up with different ideas. Because we all know, when do we come up with the best ideas is when we work as a team. I may not have the best idea. Alpha has a better idea. We'll try what Alpha says. That's how we learn. But right now, no one wants to learn. No one wants to do anything.
No.
And
no, this whole cancel culture thing is just nothing more than a bunch of bullies that get on the internet that don't really care about the issue that they're trying to jam in your rear end.
Mm-hmm.
All they care about is their ability to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think anything that they do is terribly meaningful. It's just very hurtful, and it's disgusting what's going on. It's enough.
And that's one of the reasons why we can't come out. I mean, our jobs would cancel us. And is that fair? I mean, what could you do if you got canceled? Let's ask that question for a second.
Nothing.
What would happen? You have to go, in the corner and go away, or, and who wins on that? I don't think anyone wins. I think it's like a bully, it's like
exactly.
Right.
Yeah. It's just an easy thing for somebody to do is they pick on these kids. I mean, look at cyberbullying in general. I mean, our kids are engaging in this activity, whether your kid is the greatest kid in the world or not, to some extent or another. They have friends online that, a lot of kids are getting bullied, and look what's happening to these children. A lot of, the teenage suicide rate is through the roof. And I think that electronics and I think the internet has just absolutely ruined our culture to an extent. And it's just a vehicle by which bullies can remain anonymous and do a massive amount of damage.
It's control. It's do as we say, not as we do. And
they ruin people for sport.
Yep. And here's the other thing too. If you let's take this one other step further, briefly. If you think about what Ocasio-Cortez did, and she's she gets millions of people to watch her on Instagram, or I don't bother with her, but a lot of people do. And they watch her and they hang on every word. And she dramatizes all of the things that happened to her. And again, she didn't clarify, this is my perception or this is my feeling. She's saying it like it's fact. She's an actress to begin with. I don't believe the bartending thing at all, to be honest with you. Not the way she's acting. But anyway, she went on this yarn of just nonsense. She just blah, 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 blah. And if you disagree with her or call her out on it, especially John Basovic, who basically had the timeline and had a map showing you were in your office, and that was 1.5 miles underneath a big highway, and they weren't even there when you're talking about it, and slamming the officer that was trying to help you and making him to be the bad guy was ridiculous. Everyone hung on every word and they still believe it. To me, that's just not right.
It's propaganda.
Yep. And that's where cancel culture and propaganda are synergistic, meaning they come together and they act together.
Absolutely.
And they become stronger. So they're manipulating everything in this. I feel manipulated, connived. And if you don't like it, shut up and just don't talk about it.
What I think the best part about the whole thing is, this wokeism, this new woke culture. Eventually, you're not going to be woke enough for the wokiest of the wokest people.
Mm-hmm.
And they're going to cancel you too. They're going to eat each other alive because they're going to out woke each other.
How come?
Where does it end?
Do it faster.
Well,
they should cancel each other out. I don't know. It's just,
listen. The internet's been the internet over the past 10 years is a miraculous tool. I mean, you can do a lot of different things. It's really brought the world together, but it also has torn the world apart in certain ways. It's really polarized people, and it's like little gangs of roving idiots on the internet sitting there yelling at the sky.
Mm-hmm.
It's really scary.
Mm. Well, I guess that kind of, that's our philosophical beliefs on what's going on with wokeism, and I think it's terrible. I mean, you can't even have a debate anymore.
Well, there is no debate because you're just going to get shouted down. We've created radicals. These people become, a good debate is when everybody goes away a little bit unhappy because you're right and wrong, but you come to some agreement at the end of the day, and everybody is, it just is the way it is. It's not like that anymore. We've become an incredibly polarized society because somebody told you to. You forgot how to think for yourself. Sigh.
Well, I think here's a good news story. I think we could talk about something completely different, kind of in the realm where we come from. From the Daily Mail, they talk about two men and a woman who were shipwrecked, stranded on a deserted island in the Bahamas for 33 days after their boat capsized. Were finally rescued by the Coast Guard, and they survived on conchs and rats.
Wilson.
So they actually, let's see. So the U.S. This is just the highlights here. This is from today by Megan Sheets for the DailyMail.com. U.S. Coast Guard helicopter crew rescued 3 people from Anguilla Cay, an uninhabited Bahamian island.
Bahamian Island. Yes.
Yeah. The agency said officers spotted people waving flags during a routine air patrol on Monday. How far is that from our coast, the Bahamas?
Not that far. People people go there from Florida on boats in North and South Carolina, Georgia on day cruisers. It's not that far.
The castaways, who have not been named publicly, are all Cuban nationals and were rescued on Tuesday. I wonder if they're trying to get into the country. Oh boy!
Whoop, took a wrong turn at Miami. I mean, how did that happen?
And they told rescuers they were ended up in the island after 5 weeks ago when the boat capsized. So I guess it wasn't Gilligan. So
hey, my guess is the guys were like, "Hey, take her with you. We're going to be fine. Just get her out of here. Can't stand it anymore."
Yep. So that's a kind of a good news story. You don't hear about that.
Well, good for them. I'm glad they got rescued, and that's a hell of a vacation. 33 days on a deserted island eating conch and rat. That's pretty horrible.
I don't want to know where the rats came from.
How did a rat get on an island?
I don't know.
Have like little raft, and they rafted in from somewhere. I mean, how'd that work?
Ugh.
Had to get there somehow.
I thought you eat coconuts when you're on an abandoned island. There's always a palm tree there. Let's see. Like I said, today's kind of free forming. We just we really went into the weeds. Heard.
My head still hurts after that article from Time Magazine. I don't know. It's been getting quite a lot of play. Even in some of the mainstream media, starting to really pick up on that, as saying, that kind of did happen. So interesting.
According to this is interesting. So according to the War Room, pandemics and Stephen K. Bannon and their gang there, they had a former FBI chief that was arrested. This is interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about. Did you hear about this?
Yeah, I heard about it.
So, what were they arrested? Document
insurrection.
Really? The FBI agent?
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
For what happened on the 6th of January?
Yeah. Fun times, huh?
He was there, or was he part of the other side?
He was there.
Are they linking him to President Trump? That's a question.
Well, what I find fascinating is that they're going through all sorts of painstaking, nonsense to find these people that partook in that crap. And yeah, it was crap. I'm not a big fan of what happened there at all. But yet again, I guess it's totally cool to burn down cities, and let's not even arrest anybody for that.
Or just let them out on a revolving door. So.
Oh yeah, no bail for you. It's fine. I know you're mad that Trump is president, so you can just go back about your business.
Oh, here's one other thing. I think this is important that we talk about, because this is the culture war. The culture war fighting back a little bit.
Sure.
This is from Fox News. I know, but hey, we take all kinds here at the Signal 50 podcast.
Ugh.
But it's such a good story, I have to talk about this. So if you look at Mark, remember how Fox News and they talk about the story, not a story, right? Or a story, not the story. So Mark Cuban confirms the Mavericks are no longer playing national anthem at the home games, right? And this was from, I just want to see what date this is from, 23 hours ago. I do not see a story to follow up on. What really happened was that the NBA said, you're playing the national anthem at every game, and that's the policy, and that's the end of it. So Mark Cuban can go shove it. And his little a publicity stunt that he pulled with the national anthem. How dare he? I mean, I've sworn off sports. I don't watch them anymore. I don't want to deal with them. I won't pay for anything. I don't want anything to do with the NFL, the NBA, the PGA. I don't bother. I'd rather watch a movie personally from the 60s from the 80s. But, yeah, that's good for the NBA. At least they're maybe waking up just a touch,
Right.
to the nonsense.
Well, I think it's very funny. I think there was a football game last weekend, right? Wasn't there some kind of big football game?
Yeah, the Super Bowl. Like I said, the only person that once I was listening to it, Tom Brady, and then he was a victim of
Oh yeah,
being called a racist, and because the other
oh
guy
yeah.
when he's white and doesn't have the right to say, oh, I tuned all that out. But for Tom Brady, who's 43 years old,
Yep,
to have
good for him.
7 Super Bowl wins. I mean, I wasn't a Patriots fan. I never was,
Yep.
but back when I was liking football. But you got to admire the fact that he really did what he had to do to keep in shape, and he came back from some injuries. You can't play football without getting hurt. I know that.
Well, the guy is a true leader.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he really is a leader. I mean, you read some stories about how he took the team down in Tampa Bay and he really whipped them into shape. And the coach even was like, I didn't do anything. It was Brady. And he brings back his buddy Gronkowski out of retirement. And those two, when you watch those two idiots interact, and I use the term idiots as, a term of endearment between friends. These guys are best friends, period, full stop. And you watch these guys together and watch how they interact and the things that they do together. They're having a good time and they're really good friends. And I think Rob Gronkowski is probably a really good dude. He's hilarious. He's got a self-deprecating sense of humor. He just doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
And he's an incredible athlete. He retired because he was hurt, and his buddy talked him into coming back. If anybody hasn't seen it, okay, there's an advertisement that T-Mobile did between, it was Rob Gronkowski and his buddy there, Tom Brady. If just go ahead and look at Tom Brady's T-Mobile commercial. Go ahead on YouTube and go check that out. You'll crack up. It is the funniest thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It is truly hilarious.
Yeah, I caught it after you said I should watch it afterward.
It's very funny, very funny.
And it's like kudos to Tom Brady, and he is a Trump supporter, and he gets he got negative press for going to the White House and not he wears a MAGA hat, and good for him. That's the way it should be.
Yeah.
One other story I want to bring up here. We talked about this last week. Parents are starting to get really upset with these lockdowns and not being in school, and I think it's important that we take a moment, and we kind of touched on this because you had a neighbor or someone close by that is a teacher, and she's
had a snow day since last March.
Right, pretty much. So in Breitbart, they did a story on Michigan parents demand return to in-person learning as failing grades rise. Look, we're not doing any favors to education here at all. I cannot understand why this type of learning environment on a computer at home, sometimes alone when two parents are now working again, versus being in school. And my finger goes right to the direction of the unions, teacher unions. And if there's any union supporters out there, I get it. I don't know about you, but I don't see any reason alpha for a union anymore, because they are, I'm going to get in trouble for saying it, but I'm just going to say it. back in the day when the Industrial Revolution was going on, and there was no worker rights, and there was no OSHA, and there was no protections. Sure, unions were needed, and they had to be safe, and that's where all this comes from. Now we have these safety protocols and these rules and protective gear, everything. Tests you have to have. If you're a healthcare worker, you need to have your tuberculosis test done. You need to have vaccines in place. You got to have a physical, all this stuff. Firefighters have to go through it now. They're even talking about firefighters. The big problem is the decontaminating properly after a fire. All those smoke particles or carcinogens are all bad for you. They're poisons, they're cyanides, they're all this other garbage. And if you're not cleaning yourself off before you go back to the station, you're wearing this all the time. Huge rise in throat cancers, huge rise in skin cancers, huge rise in all this stuff. So my idea, and the professional firefighters, not volunteer, professional firefighters have NFPA or the IAFF. Where have they been? Now all of a sudden they're starting to talk about decontamination and make sure you clean your gear and all this other stuff. But the teachers unions, there's no real evidence to support their position that
None.
they stay home.
None.
And let's just talk briefly about how kids learn. Briefly. I don't want to get into too much of a big lecture about this, but kids learn better. Do you think kids are going to learn better behind a computer screen at home, staring at a screen all day? Or are they going to learn better by interacting with other peers, being in a regimented, scheduled day, doing activities and exploring and learning? Because remember, kids learn differently than us adults.
Well, let's look at a little bit more of the impact on the educational impact. I mean, it goes a little bit deeper than that. I mean, look what's been going on. I mean, these parents who might still have a job, that they don't have the luxury of telecommuting or doing a home office scenario, and they have young children. What are they going to do what have they done with these children for a year? The schools provide, a place for children to go during the day while mom and dad go to work. Additionally, there are very few things that I'm liberal about. One of those things that I am liberal about is schools provide a lot of services to kids that would otherwise go without education, and that whatever is that's goes without saying. Special education students have been unserviced against the law for the last year.
Yep.
Their IEPs have been ignored. Number one. Number two, they're falling so far behind. Number two, there are certain groups of children that don't eat 3 square meals a day. Schools provide 1 to 2 meals a day for these children. They're hungry because mom and dad are working their ass off, or they're not, whatever. They can't afford to feed their children. The schools are an outlet where these children get you may not look at it like it's the greatest thing in the world, but I got to tell you something. When you're starving, any food is good food. So they're feeding these children. There's social services that happen in these schools. A lot of abuse cases get picked up from the schools, from the teachers, and social services gets involved in Children Protective Services. Not that they're a good organization 90% of the time, but there is some good that they do. They do serve a purpose. How many kids out there are being abused and we don't even know about it?
You won't unless
You won't.
the
teachers aren't the providers are the educational providers aren't picking up on it.
I'm talking about medical providers, but yeah, they're not even seeing kids anymore. They're seeing them on telehealth, which you can hide a lot.
Sure.
Over a computer screen. So you're right.
Right. And you've got social workers, and you've got school psychologists, and you've got guidance counselors and role models for these children. Social interaction. These kids are suffering badly. They may not look at school like it's the greatest thing in the world, but as somebody who's gone through school, I can tell you that it's crucially important that these children have structure, and they have none.
So now you have governors that are still playing this, catering to these unions, and not having these kids go to school. Again, I don't know what you do except get them back in school, but they're pulling all kinds of reasons why they can. And you have to think of it, what is the union's responsibility of this? Well, it's 100% in my opinion. But these teachers are living up the life and creating wealth by not really doing anything. Now, I won't say all teachers. I'll say some of them. But it's sad. This is just not the way it's supposed to be. Kids are not gonna do well.
right.
We're going to have a huge amount of problems down the road. We're going to have all kinds of psychological issues and adjustment issues, and not being able to adjust, behavioral disorders, all kinds of stuff are going to come out of this.
Right.
We haven't seen the tip of the iceberg yet.
Listen, the government has created a corner on the market of education. The government has created, for the most part, a monopoly on education. The government has failed miserably by their own design and the agreements that they formed with unions that represent teachers. Now, I think it's wrong. I think the teachers union needs to go, because my money is being spent to educate children, not to fill the coffers of a union, and not to let these teachers leverage their way into positions where they can close down school districts for an entire year. I think it's wrong. And I think school choice needs to be a big issue. That was the direction that Donald Trump was heading in, was school choice. And, well, look what happened. They didn't like him, did they?
No, that was another.
That's another issue.
Yep. But you're right. I mean, they're going after him both barrels,
right?
And unfortunately, so
no good news to be found really anywhere, except if you're stranded on a desert island for 33 days, I guess you're going to be okay.
Well, kudos to the Coast Guard. I mean, God,
good for them.
That's a nice thing to do. Is get a fine like that and bring them back safe, and they'll end up staying. Anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, what are you gonna do? So yeah, today's show is a little bit lighter. It's the middle of the week. We want to not kind of dive. We'll dive in. We'll have look forward to hearing your comments. If you want live or you want recorded versions, we can do either one. We'll see what you want.
Sure, we'll see what you want. We'll take it under consideration, but at the end of the day, we have to do what works for our schedule too. So we do look forward to hearing some feedback from you.
Potpourri of shows. That's what we did today. It was a potpourri of topics.
It's a potpourri of topics. There's no real organization tonight. It's Wednesday. It's a work week. It's awful. The weather sucks. I just want winter to be over already.
Anyway, so let's comments before we head on out of here. Anything?
Drew Bradley's in the house. Hey, Drew Bradley.
Welcome. See what he has to say here.
You're fine, Drew. No problem. Nobody cares.
Yep.
It's fine. All right, everybody. Hey, listen, thanks a lot for joining us. Be sure to catch us on signal50.com. Come on over there. Check out some of our content, some of the pieces that we've written for the in the commentary section. Don't forget to pick us up on your favorite podcast outlet, Podbean, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're on iHeart.
And you can get there via the website.
Signal50.com. And we're on Audible. And be sure to check us out on Rumble, where we're going to spend a lot of time over on Rumble. I'm not so sure Parler's going to come back. They said it was going to come back this week. I don't know. I hope so.
One thing, just as a side note, Telegram is pretty cool, but you have to have people subscribe to your channel, and that's all you're talking to. Is this little microcosm? You're not talking to. It'll get out on a feed, but. On Parler, we were getting on feeds and people can see you and then they would follow you.
Right.
they would follow them, they'll follow you back, and it's like a combination of Facebook and Twitter, and it was a good thing, but it was run terribly by the CEO, and he's now running his mouth some more. But anyway,
Oh, good for him. I hope Bongino will sue him into the poorhouse.
also,
that's a guy who will stand on his principles all day long, and I'm not sure you want to cross him. He'll fight you.
No, but he's the inspiration for us. So
he's a good man. All right, everybody.
I want to make sure we thank our firefighters, our MS personnel, our police officers, and of course the military. Anyone that is willing to put on that uniform, risk their lives, and defend me has my utmost respect.
Absolutely. On that note, I'd like to throw a shout out to pof-usa.com, pof-usa.com, our affiliate, POF USA, Patriot Ordnance Factory, Chandler, Arizona, makers of the finest AR-15 style rifles anywhere in the world, made by Patriots, for Patriots, a family-run business, made in America by Americans, for Americans. Go give them a look, check them out. And on that note, bravo. Cue the music.
It's time to cue the music. Take care, everyone. We'll see you on
Take care. Thanks a lot. See you, Drew. Bye-bye.
Bye. Again, thanks for listening. This is the end of our Signal 50 transmission.